universe, media, network, 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 network.
Welcome to the STL REI Girls Podcast, recorded live at Webster Groves Garden Cafe at 117 East Lockwood Avenue in Webster Groves, Missouri. I'm Sandra Holtmeyer.
And I'm Sherry Zink.
We have a guest co-host today, so we'll let you introduce yourself in just a second, Cheryl. But today we are talking to Rachel Murley of RKM Accounting and Tax LLC. Rachel is driven, loves what she does, and eventually wants to evolve her career into the world of philanthropy.
Yes.
So, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So, Sherry is a guest co-host today, so I'll just let you introduce yourself a little bit to the audience in case they haven't heard you before.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I'm Sherry Zink and of Sherry Buys Houses, and I started as a real estate investor in June. So I'm very new at this, and I was in corporate America for 25 plus years. Did a lot in that and was able to find that my skills were transferable, and so I've just jumped in, and I think I've just completed my 10th deal. So
in like 9 months, she's like a rock star.
That's exciting.
So it is. I'm very excited about it. So I'm loving this, and I appreciate being invited here to do this.
Absolutely.
This is new to me, too.
Yeah, great. Well, my name is Sandra Holtmeyer. I am a local real estate investor. I wholesale, I rehab, I landlord. I'm a real estate agent with Worth Clark Realty, so I kind of do a little bit of everything. It all works together, and it's a little crazy sometimes, and I love it. So I'm anxious to hear about you and what you're bringing to the table. One of the things I like to do is let women highlight what they're doing and inspire other women that are listening to know that even if you're not getting into real estate, you're thinking about any career change, we all bring skill sets, like Sherry said, that are transferable, and sometimes we just don't see that in ourselves. So I think listening to other stories really helps with that. So Thank you for being here today, Rachel.
Rachel, if you could just tell us a little bit about your personal life.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know how much of that you want to know. I don't have much of one right now. Honestly, it's tax season. I'm an accountant. So, but outside of accounting, I love to ride my bike when the weather's nice. I guess now that the weather's warming up, I've got that on my mind. And just, I try to stay active. I do this thing called roller derby, if you guys.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a workout.
Yeah. So I've kind of been taking a little bit of a break, because injuries have, taken me down a little bit this last year. So just trying to let my body heal. But that's a lot of kind of what I do.
That's great.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. Tell us how long you've been an accountant, how long you've been working in your industry.
I've basically been an accountant my whole career. I've worked in the corporate side of accounting for the first, probably 8 years of my career. And then I worked in the tax industry exclusively for, about 10, 12 years. And then I branched out on my own and started my own accounting practice just about 6-7 years ago, and started working with small business owners. So, exclusively like the sole proprietorships, maybe partnerships, people that really need the help with that accounting side of things. And that's just what I love to do.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what appealed to you most about working as an accountant in that industry?
I don't know. I think I just fell into it. Like, so many people, I think that's what happens anymore. I started going to school, just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do, took some business courses, and then got a job, kind of as an entry-level accountant type position, and just kind of really liked it. So, numbers and messing around with general ledgers and all that stuff that most people want nothing to do with.
Right.
I just thought, wow, like this is great. And that's what happened.
We need people like you.
I know I do. That's my least
For certain.
talented area, however you want to say that.
When I was younger, if you would have asked if this was what I would be doing, I would have probably never
Isn't that
told you
something?
that.
Yeah.
I, way long time ago, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And I love teaching. I love holding seminars and teaching people about taxes now and accounting, but would have never thought that accounting specifically would have been what I'd be doing.
Yeah. That's great. I
Yes.
love how that happens.
I do too.
Yeah. Yeah, you just never
It's
know where
funny.
life's going to take you sometimes. So did you have any support, Rachel, when you started? Were you on your own? I guess you started in corporate, but more when you branched out on your own into your own business.
I guess I had the support of my family, in terms of, I guess I've always been a little crazy. So I think, when I was all of a sudden like, hey, I'm quitting my job and I'm starting a company, my family was like, you're doing what? But, they were always there to support my crazy idea and say, okay, you can do this thing. And, but other than that, I just really took a leap of faith like a lot of people do. And, thank gosh, it's turned out to be a good thing.
Well, I think some people are afraid to take that leap of faith.
Oh,
So
yes.
knowing that you've got the support of family or a spouse or a partner or someone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to hear, everyone's got different support systems, but, you've got to find one, you know?
Yep.
So-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us, when you started then your own business, then tell us about your first clientele as it came in. We talk about what our first deal is as real estate investors, but as an accountant, you would have then, I imagine, started from scratch because you went from corporate tax to starting your own. So tell us a little bit about those first clients that you brought in. And
Wow. It was almost, I'm trying to even think of how it kind of all transpired, but I just, for instance, had one client and just kind of met with him, started going through his books and got, I think it's more like the process of, you don't think of all the things that happen when you go to start your own business.
Right.
That anybody that's ever started a business knows, you can plan all day long or be somebody like me that just decides spur of the moment, I'm doing this thing. And you don't realize how much is involved, setting up your own, for accounting specifically, I need to go get my own QuickBooks account for an accountant and start all these things.
Right.
And finding clients, you just think, oh, I can just go find somebody. But, finding the right kind of client and just,
Right.
again, I think it just happens sometimes.
yeah.
And then, quite frankly, just getting out, and I think networking is so key. And I think that's really kind of what helped me find, even my first client,
Okay.
was just out in networking and talking and, people learning that you are knowledgeable or looking to help, I
Yeah.
think is a lot of it. And, we've all, as accountants, I think, had crazy clients. That's the ones that you remember the most.
Of course.
It wasn't my first client, but one of my first few clients had come in, found somebody that he hadn't filed his tax returns for, 3-4 years, something like that. And as a small business owner, you can only imagine if you just kept all of your receipts in literally a
boy.
rubber container,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
those
One
rubber
year's bad enough,
containers
but
that
3
you
or
store
4,
stuff
oh
in.
boy.
Yeah, I will never forget that. He just had this container of wadded up receipts, and I thought, wow, what am I going to do with this?
Wow. I just see a tornado of paper going on. Yeah.
The whole office was, because this is back before I had an actual office. I just kind
Right.
of started out of my home.
Sure.
The whole office in my house was just papers were everywhere, and I was unwadding things and putting them into stacks and piles, just trying to organize the mess. But, got it straightened out.
Brave of you.
Yeah, he's still my client to this day, and he's
gosh, that's
a disorganized mess.
Oh,
so that's
that
the
is
good.
great.
Yes.
That's a great news story.
Yes.
I love it.
Well, I was just going to ask you your first big success, so I think that was his. But once you started working on your own, what was your biggest success? I can't talk today. Like, did you get a big client, or did you ever get like a group, or what would be success in your world? I don't really know how you measure that. Like, how did you know, like, I made it, I can do this, it's working, I can support myself?
I think that's always a work in progress. Like, I know that sounds so crazy, but I think the biggest success is just the fact that it was like, okay, I literally took a leap of faith, and then I was like, okay, like, I can pay my bills this month. Like, I'm okay. Mm-hmm. Like, and it seems so trivial, but, when you first start out, and it's like every client and every dollar is just, you're fighting for it to survive. Mm-hmm. I think when I didn't have to work part-time jobs anymore to support myself, like, that was probably the biggest success.
That's great.
Oh, yeah. That is.
It was sustaining itself.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
What is your favorite type of client?
That's such a tricky question.
You don't have to name names.
I know, right? Let me start now.
Are they still with you today?
Yeah. I guess the kind of clients I like to deal with are, the small business owners. Like, I understand the struggles, and I understand sometimes that it's hard for them to go out and hire a CPA because they're like, oh, it costs so much money and I can't afford this, and what am I going to do? And so then they find themselves not doing anything because they think they can't afford it. And just being able to sit down with them and say, look, like, you can have accounting help. You don't have to hire a CPA. And, even help teach them how they can kind of do some of these things themselves so they don't have to pay somebody to always do it for them. Mm-hmm. And just knowing that I've helped that person, I think is the biggest key for me. And I know that's very broad, but especially now I've, been dealing with a lot of, like, real estate investors, mm-hmm. and, that niche group, real estate agents, or, flippers, or whatever you want to call them, landlords, and, just, it's fun because there's just so many unknowns all the time, and every situation can be different. Every time they go buy a house, every time you go buy a house, right? Like, the situation's totally different,
right?
And the St. Louis real estate market is so hot right now. There's just so many properties out there to buy and rehab and rent. And, you find people getting into this all the time that then don't understand what happens. You just go buy a house and do this. And, well, what are the implications of that? Like, are there things that you can do to help negate some of that tax that you might have to pay? Or, just...
I needed you 4 years ago. Where were you? You're exactly right, because some of us come with no accounting experience. We know how to flip house and swing a hammer or get a client, but structure our finances, and does this go on the right side or the left side? I still don't know that.
Taxes were handled by my previous employer.
Yeah, right. We had an accounting department. They gave us the reports.
That's right.
We're like, yep, yeah. Well, that is a huge need. So I think that's great that you identify with those of us that, I always tell the person helping me now, like, you got to dumb it down for me. Like, you got to make this really simple, because that's not my wheelhouse. So that's good, because I went through a couple of CPAs that couldn't do that for me, that just didn't understand my business well enough. We just could never get to the point where we spoke the same language. So that's definitely a skill. I think we already talked about what I was going to ask next, what your previous experience was that helped with what you're doing. But can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because I don't know if everybody heard this before, but I like for the people listening to...